Could Wichita Public Schools be at risk of losing federal funding?
The Kansas Attorney General sent a letter to the district urging it to tighten its policies that affirm students who identify as transgender, saying that the district could be at risk of losing federal funding if it doesn't comply. Keenan Penn has been following this story and joins us now with details. Keenan?
Mike and Rachel, Wichita Public Schools received that letter from the Attorney General's office just under a month ago on November 10th, telling the district that it had until January 2nd to change its transgender policies under federal law. The letter mentioning Wichita East High School specifically. Now, that same day, the Kansas Department of Education also received a letter from the Kansas Attorney General saying that it had been notified that some Kansas schools were still in possession of books that talk about sexual orientation and gender identity, also emphasizing parents' rights to religious freedom and what their children are exposed to in school. I spoke with Betty Arnold with the Kansas Department of Education, and she said while that letter served as a reminder of compliance, it failed to say what policies specifically violated federal law.
I don't know of a district that would deliberately violate a law. And even when new laws are created, there's a time frame that allows districts to take whatever steps they need to take. It said, you need to be in compliance. Well, then tell me where we are out of compliance.
I reached out to Wichita Public Schools, and the district says that it is not aware of what specific allegations were made. The district sent 12 News a statement saying, in part, Wichita Public Schools policies follow Kansas and federal law as well as district values. The letter made several broad recommendations, from policies to student report to parental review of instructional materials, which the Board of Education has not yet had the opportunity to fully discuss. We also reached out to the Kansas Attorney General's office directly, and he was unavailable to make a comment at